welcome back. Today we're going to be diving into something pretty interesting in the AI world.
Oh, yeah.
It's a new model that's turning heads called Vitruvian-1. And for a while now, the trend in AI development has been all about bigger is better.
Yeah, bigger models, more data, more computing power.
Exactly. And we're talking models with like trillions of parameters.
Trillions, yeah. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is. But this Vitruvian-1 model, it's coming from a small Italian startup called ASC27.
Interesting.
And it's really challenging that whole idea that bigger is always better.
How so?
Well, it's only got 14 billion parameters, which is tiny compared to some of these mega models we're talking about.
Right, right.
But it's achieving some really remarkable results.
So it's like a David and Goliath situation in the AI world.
Exactly, it is. And what's really interesting to me is that ASC27,
Okay.
they're focusing on quality over quantity,
I see.
especially when it comes to the data they use to train Vitruvian-1.
So instead of just feeding it massive amounts of data, they're being much more selective.
Exactly. They've carefully curated a data set of 120 billion tokens.
120 billion. That's still a massive amount of data, though, right?
It is huge, but it's a fraction of what some of these other models are trained on.
Okay, so how do they decide what data to use?
Well, they have this incredibly rigorous multi-stage filtration system.
Oh, wow.
It analyzes potential data across like a whole bunch of linguistic and semantic dimensions.
So they're really scrutinizing every piece of information that goes into the model.
They are, and they actually reject about 68% of the potential data.
68%. That's a lot of rejected data.
It is, but they're really committed to only using the highest quality data.
So it's not just about the quantity of data, but the quality that really matters.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like if you were learning a new language,
Okay.
would you rather learn from like a really well-written textbook
Right.
or just like a giant pile of random internet articles?
Yeah, the textbook would definitely be more effective.
Right, and that's essentially what ASC27 is doing with Vitruvian-1.
Interesting. So they're giving it the AI equivalent of a high-quality education.
Yeah, I like that analogy. They're really focusing on teaching it to think clearly and effectively.
And that seems to be paying off.
It is, and the way they do that is with this really interesting three-phase training process.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that.
Well, the first phase is called continuous pre-training.
Continuous pre-training.
And it's all about building a really strong foundation for the model.
Kind of like laying the groundwork for everything that comes later.
Exactly. And they use something called curriculum learning, where they gradually increase the complexity of the information that the model is processing.
So it's like starting with the basics and then gradually moving on to more advanced concepts.
Right. It's kind of like how we learn in school, you know?
Yeah, starting with simple addition, then moving on to algebra and calculus.
Exactly. And they've also really optimized the training process for the specific hardware they're using.
To make it as efficient as possible.
Right? They're really squeezing every bit of performance out of their system.
Okay, so that's phase one, building the foundation. What about phase two?
So phase 2 is called supervised fine-tuning.
Supervised fine-tuning.
And this is where they really start to specialize the model's abilities.
Okay, so they're taking that strong foundation and shaping it for specific tasks.
Exactly. And they use over 1 million human annotated examples.
Wow. 1 million. That's a lot.
It is. It's a massive amount of data, but it's all been carefully labeled by humans to teach the model how to perform specific tasks.
So real people are involved in this training process.
Absolutely. And those examples cover a whole range of tasks,
Like what kind of tasks?
Like solving math problems, understanding legal documents, writing different kinds of creative text.
So they're really putting it through its paces.
They are, and they're teaching it to reason through problems step by step.
Which is crucial for any kind of complex task.
Exactly. And then we get to phase 3.
Okay, the final stage of training.
Yeah, this one is called composite reinforcement learning.
Composite reinforcement learning? That sounds intense.
It is. It's where they use a really sophisticated system of rewards and penalties.
To encourage the model to generate accurate and efficient responses.
Right. You can kind of think of it like training a dog,
Okay.
You reward the behaviors you want to see, and you discourage the behaviors you don't want to see.
So they're shaping the model's behavior through this system of rewards and penalties.
Exactly. And this is really important for preventing something called hallucination.
Hallucination, what do you mean by that?
So hallucination is when an AI model starts to generate outputs that are like factually incorrect or just completely made up.
Oh, I see. So it's like the AI is seeing things that aren't really there.
Yeah, it can be a big problem with some AI models.
Right, because if you can't trust the AI's output, then it's not really that useful.
Exactly. So ASC27 has come up with a really innovative solution to this problem.
I'm all in.
They call them automated verifiers.
Automated verifiers.
Yeah, basically they're like AI fact checkers.
That's cool.
They're constantly monitoring the model's output, making sure that everything it generates is accurate and reliable.
So like having a built-in quality control system.
Yeah, exactly. And they use different types of verifiers depending on the task.
So how does that work?
Well, for tasks with like clear-cut answers, like math problems,
Yeah.
they use something called deterministic checkers,
Okay.
which can just definitively say whether or not an answer is correct.
Got it.
But for more open-ended tasks, where there's not necessarily a single right answer,
Okay.
they use other language models to judge the accuracy of the output.
So it's like a panel of AI experts evaluating the model's work.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, and this whole system has been really effective at reducing hallucination rates.
That's reassuring.
Yeah, it's really impressive what they've been able to achieve with this approach.
It definitely sounds like they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.
They are, and we're just getting started. There's a lot more to talk about with Vitruvian-1,
Like what?
like this whole idea of dynamic chain of thought optimization.
Dynamic chain of thought optimization.
It's where things get really interesting. We'll have to dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Well, you've definitely piqued my curiosity. I'm eager to hear more about that.
All right, well, stay tuned for part 2, where we'll explore that and more.
I'm looking forward to it. Welcome back.
All right, so we left off talking about how Vitruvian-1 is trained.
Right, the rigorous three-phase process.
Exactly, and how they're really tackling that whole hallucination problem.
Yeah, those automated verifiers are pretty impressive.
They are. But, every technology has its limitations.
Of course.
So I'm curious about what Vitruvian-1 can't do what.
Well, one of the trade-offs they had to make was with the context window.
The context window.
Yeah, it's basically how much information the model can process at one time.
Okay, so like short-term memory for an AI.
Yeah, kind of like that. And for Vitruvian-1, it's limited to 8,000 tokens.
8,000 tokens? That doesn't sound like a lot.
Well, it's a decent amount, but it does mean that it can struggle with really long or complex texts.
Right, because it's like trying to understand a whole book
Yeah.
by only reading a few sentences at a time.
Exactly. You missed the bigger picture.
Yeah, I see that. So are they working on expanding that context window?
They are. It's definitely a priority for future development.
Okay, good to know. What about other limitations?
Well, another area where they had to make a trade-off was with multimodal capabilities.
Multimodal capabilities.
Yeah, so right now Vitruvian-1 is primarily text-based.
So it can't really deal with images or audio or video yet.
Right, exactly.
But I can imagine that would be incredibly powerful if it could.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if it could analyze a medical image or listen to the speech.
Yeah, that would open up a whole new world of possibilities.
It would. So is that something they're looking into?
Definitely. Integrating those kinds of multimodal capabilities is a major goal for the future.
That's exciting to hear. Now, another thing that really stood out to me about Vitruvian-1 is its focus on European languages and cultural contexts.
Right. They really emphasize that in their research.
They did, and it makes sense. They're a European company. They're
Yeah.
targeting European markets.
Of course.
But I'm curious about how that might limit its global reach.
That's a valid point, and it's something that ASC 27 is thinking about.
So are they planning to expand to other languages and regions?
Well, they're starting with Europe as their foundation.
Right.
But they're also exploring ways to make Vitruvian-1 more adaptable for wider use.
So how are they going to do that?
One interesting approach is something they call a cross-model collaboration framework.
Cross-model collaboration framework?
Yeah, basically it allows different AI models to work together.
To share knowledge and learn from each other.
Exactly. So you could have Vitruvian-1 with its expertise in European languages,
Okay.
collaborating with another AI that specializes in Asian languages or something like that.
That's a really cool idea, like a global team of AI experts.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Now, we've been talking a lot about the specifics of Vitruvian-1,
We have.
but I'm also curious about what this all means for the future of AI in general.
Yeah, the bigger picture.
Exactly. Do you think this model and this approach could signal a shift in how we think about AI development?
I think it has the potential to, for one thing,
Yeah.
it really challenges that assumption that bigger is always better.
Right, because Vitruvian-1 is showing that a smaller model
Yeah.
with a focus on high-quality data can be incredibly powerful.
And often even outperform those giant models in certain areas.
Exactly. It's all about quality over quantity.
It really is. And, another thing to consider is the environmental impact.
Oh, right.
Training those massive AI models takes a huge amount of energy.
It does.
And so building more efficient models, like Vitruvian-1,
Yeah.
is much better for the environment.
So it's a win-win. You get better performance and you're being more sustainable.
Exactly. And I think there's also a democratizing aspect to this.
What do you mean?
Well, right now, only a handful of giant companies have the resources to build those massive AI models.
Right.
But Vitruvian-1 shows that smaller companies and research groups can still make a huge impact.
If they focus on quality data and specific applications?
Exactly. So it could really level the playing field in the AI world.
That would be amazing. More innovation, more diversity of thought.
Yeah, it's an exciting prospect.
It is. Now, are there any potential downsides to this shift towards more specialized AIs?
That's a good question. One concern is the risk of fragmentation.
Fragmentation.
Yeah, if everyone's building their own specialized AI systems,
Okay.
we can end up with a bunch of systems that can't communicate with each other.
Right, like a bunch of different countries, all using different electrical plugs.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great analogy. So it's important to think about standards
Okay.
for how these systems can share information and work together.
So it's not just about building better AIs, it's about building a better AI ecosystem.
Exactly. And ASC 27 is actually thinking about this a lot.
Oh, that's good.
They're not just focused on building an isolated AI.
Right.
They want Vitruvian-1 to be part of a larger interconnected network.
That's great to hear. So it's all about collaboration.
It is collaboration between AI systems, between developers, between policymakers.
Yeah, we need everyone working together to make sure the AI is used for good.
Absolutely. And I think Vitruvian-1 is a really encouraging step in that direction.
It is. It's a really impressive achievement, and I'm excited to see what they do next.
Me too. It'll be interesting to see how this approach evolves in the coming years.
Okay, well, now I'm really eager to hear about some specific examples of how the Vitruvian-1 is actually being used.
Yeah, let's see it in action.
All right, well, join us for part 3, where we'll explore how this groundbreaking AI is being applied in fields like medicine law and more. We're back, ready to see Vitruvian-1 in action.
Absolutely. Let's see what this AI can really do.
Okay, so you mentioned last time that it's making waves in medical diagnostics.
Yeah, particularly in oncology.
Okay, so how is it actually being used?
Well, they're using it to analyze Italian language oncology case studies.
Really?
Yeah, and the results have been pretty remarkable.
So is it like helping doctors make diagnoses?
It's doing all sorts of things.
Like what?
It can assist with diagnosing cancer, predicting patient outcomes, even suggesting potential treatment plans.
Wow, suggesting treatment plans. That's a big deal.
It is, but it's important to remember that Vitruvian-1 is a tool.
Right.
It's there to support doctors, not replace them.
Of course.
It's not making decisions on its own.
Right.
It's analyzing tons of medical data, patient records, research papers, clinical trial results.
Okay.
And then it presents that information to the doctors in a clear and concise way.
So it's like having a super smart research assistant.
Yeah, exactly. One that can instantly access and process all the latest medical knowledge.
That's incredible. And it's accurate.
Very accurate. In fact, it's shown a significantly higher level of accuracy than more generalized models.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah, early and accurate diagnosis is so crucial in cancer treatment.
Absolutely.
And Vitruvian-1 is helping doctors do that with more confidence.
I can see how that would be a game changer for both doctors and patients.
It really is. Now, beyond medicine, it's also being used for legal analysis.
Oh, right. You mentioned that before.
Yeah, one of the most interesting applications there is in compliance checking.
Compliance checking.
Yeah, basically making sure that companies are following all the relevant laws and regulations.
Oh, okay. So it's like an AI lawyer making sure everyone's playing by the rules.
You could say that. It's particularly good at checking compliance with GDPR.
GDPR?
Yeah, the EU's data protection law.
Right, right.
And also with Italian privacy laws.
Again, it makes sense given its focus on European languages and legal context.
Exactly. But are actual law firms using this?
Yeah, are they actually finding it useful?
They are. ASC 27 has been working with several law firms and businesses.
Okay.
And the feedback has been really positive.
So what are they saying?
They're saying it's a huge time saver.
Really?
Yeah, instead of spending hours poring over legal documents manually.
Right.
They can use Vitruvian-1 to quickly identify potential compliance issues.
So it's not replacing lawyers, it's making them more efficient.
Exactly. It's freeing them up to focus on the more strategic aspects of their work.
That's a really interesting application. Now, with all this talk about AI's growing capabilities,
Yeah.
I have to ask, are there any concerns about potential misuse?
That's a valid question, and it's something that ASC 27 takes very seriously.
So what are they doing to prevent that?
Well, first, they're very transparent about the limitations of the technology.
Okay.
They're not overselling it or pretending it can do everything.
Right. They're being realistic about what it can and can't do.
Exactly. Second, they're working closely with policymakers and regulators.
To ensure that it's being used ethically and responsibly.
Exactly. And third, they're engaging with the public to have open conversations about AI.
About the potential benefits and risks.
Exactly. It's all about fostering a responsible and ethical approach to AI development.
That's good to hear. It sounds like they're really trying to do things the right way.
They are, and I think that's crucial for building trust in this technology.
I agree. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Vitruvian-1, what's the main takeaway you hope our listeners get from this?
Well, I hope they see that AI isn't some mysterious force that's beyond our control.
Okay,
It's something we're building and shaping,
right.
and we have a responsibility to do that thoughtfully and ethically.
Well said. And Vitruvian-1 is a great example of that.
It really is.
It's showing us that we can develop AI that's powerful and efficient and targeted,
Yeah,
but also built with a strong ethical foundation.
exactly. It's a really inspiring story of innovation and collaboration.
It is, and it gives me hope for the future of AI.
Me too. I think it shows that we can create a future where AI benefits everyone.
Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive,
I guess so.
but the conversation about AI is just beginning.
It is.
So, to all our listeners out
Yeah,
there, keep learning, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions.
absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.